continues to gather momentum, with countries being under high pressure to deliver on its commitment to reach the Global Methane Pledge. The Global Methane Assessment says, keeping global warming below 1.5 could hinge on how much we reduce methane within this decade. Today, we'll cover 2 out of 3 top emitting anthropogenic methane sources. First is waste, and the second is agriculture. Agriculture is the largest source of anthropogenic methane emissions. The global food system alone is responsible for more than a third of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emission. Meanwhile, the waste sector is responsible for 20% of anthropogenic methane emissions. Moreover, the largest proportion of solid waste stream is mostly food waste and garden waste. Unfortunately, these organic material are either burned or dumped, and releasing a gigantic amount of carbon dioxide and methane. Clearly, we need a fast and rapid reduction of greenhouse gases from these 2 sectors, prevent our ecological limits from collapsing. Tackling the way we produce and consume our waste, and also handling the food waste, is critical to stabilizing the climate to acceptable range of temperature. Most importantly, we need to ensure that fast methane reduction is done without neglecting environmental justice. The good news is, we can rapidly reduce methane from both sectors, from the food system through agroecology, and for waste, it's through scaling up proven organic waste management strategies. And these 2 are sister solutions, agroecology and zero waste, both supporting system change for methane reduction. Because when these 2 solutions are rooted in environmental justice principles, we are not only achieving methane reduction, but we're also achieving demonstrable co-benefits of livelihoods, quality of life, governance, and community health. In this side event, we are going to learn how this is done from 7 panelists that consist of local government officials, civil society representatives, and frontline communities. We will start our session hearing a presentation from Christy Kidd, GAIA International Coordinator and GAIA US Executive Director. Today, GAIA has published the Environmental Justice Principles for Fast Action on Waste and Methane. This set of principles provides guidance for policymakers and all shareholders to ensure the right steps are being taken to incorporate justice into national and subnational level and integrate it into the plans for methane reduction and action. Without further ado, I will ask Christy to come and present it to us. Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Yobel. As Yobel said, I'm here representing GAIA. And GAIA, if you can put up the first slide. Do I have? Let's see. Okay. So GAIA is an international network of grassroots and national organizations from 92 countries around the world who are working together on waste and justice. And I'm very inspired and lucky to be here in support of our 25-person delegation from 18 countries. Together, we represent hundreds of powerful community-based organizations and city allies who are working around the world on zero waste solutions to the climate crisis. One of GAIA's main strategic priorities over the next years is to support collective organizing and policy work for high-ambition methane reduction. GAIA's members have deep expertise in this field and are strongly rooted in their countries. Many of them have been working for decades on reducing pollution from organic waste and implementing composting, biogas, and other zero waste solutions in collaboration with their local and national governments. Today, you're going to hear more about the many solutions that our members and allies from the Asia-Pacific region are working on, and the potential for fast action on methane in the waste and agricultural sector. But before we get there, I want to say a few words about why we care about methane. Yobel spoke about a little bit of this, which is methane is a short-lived greenhouse gas that is over 80 times as potent as CO2. Its reduction is critical to achieving the Paris Climate Agreement's goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. And fortunately, the methane reduction agenda has gathered momentum over the last 2 years, with more than 150 countries adopting the Global Methane Pledge. As Yobel explained, waste is the third largest source of methane, and it results primarily from landfilling and dumping organic waste. Agriculture is another major source, and later my colleagues from Pesticide Action Network are going to be speaking about opportunities for action in that field. More than 50 countries have already adopted national methane action plans or are in the process of doing so, and all of the countries that have signed on to the pledge are under pressure to deliver on their commitments. At the same time, substantial new financial resources are being directed to methane action, and more are being raised. So what are the solutions that we see for the field? The momentum around methane reduction has been welcomed by GAIA's network, as waste is unfortunately the fastest growing source of human-linked methane emissions. This is because more than 50% of what is usually thrown into dumps and landfills is organic material. In this sense, the fastest and most economical way to reduce emissions from organic waste is to either reduce that waste or to start putting it to use as compost or animal feed. Here's where I have both good and bad news for you. We've done several studies on this topic, and it's clear from the research that we can rapidly reduce methane emissions from the waste sector by scaling up proven zero waste solutions and best practice organics management strategies. In addition, when we take environmental justice principles into account and involve community organizers and waste workers in the solutions we seek to implement, we can ensure both high ambition policies and widespread public support, which will strengthen the political commitment and will of governments. These solutions are also important because of their co-benefits. In a world beset by poverty, disease, war, inequality, and other interconnected injustices, the need for systems change is more important than ever. The most effective climate action strategies will not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but will also improve living conditions such as air quality, employment, food security, and governability. Today we're going to talk about what this means in practice and what principles we can take into account to ensure fast action on methane, as well as the fair, just, and sustainable implementation of solutions. This agenda is not without obstacles. Waste sector decision-making and investment are often significantly disarticulated, leading to conflict between local communities and governments, national strategies, and financial incentives. Failure to engage issues of justice can also exacerbate social divisions and exclude critical stakeholders, especially informal sector recyclers. In addition, when we continue to allow methane mitigation money for the waste sector to go to building incinerators that claim to produce green energy from burning waste, we create public resistance, slow down action on methane and climate, and build facilities that are more carbon polluting than coal-fired power plants. We simply cannot allow action in the waste sector to swap carbon for methane, or we will create one climate and justice problem in the name of addressing another. We need a better approach. Taking these needs into account, and with the support of the Global Methane Hub, GAIA has developed a set of environmental justice principles for fast action on methane in the waste sector. Organizations in 41 countries participated in the development of these principles, which we are launching today at COP28. These principles provide guidance to policymakers and other key stakeholders, as well as checklists for NDCs and national policies. And they focus on how to integrate community members and waste workers in the design and implementation of waste systems. GAIA is taking action on these principles through our partnership with local and national organizations that are poised to work on methane policy and implementation efforts in 50 countries. We are also inviting others to join us in putting these principles into action. So what are the principles? In brief, they call on us to respect planetary boundaries to ensure intergenerational equity, ensure participation and respect for all waste pickers and waste workers, enhance inclusion and build from local knowledge, respond to pollution and environmental harm with accountability, and support systems change and holistic solutions. I'll say a few words now about what each of these principles mean more specifically. So, respect for planetary boundaries requires recognizing ecological limits and applying the waste hierarchy to reverse climate change and drive a just transition. We need to prioritize waste prevention, phase out waste disposal technologies such as landfilling and incineration, and give discarded materials their highest and best use. Ensuring respect for waste workers means taking action to uphold and strengthen human rights, centering equity and justice in all our actions, and protecting livelihoods in future organics management programs. Waste pickers are at the center of a just transition process in the recycling sector and must have a safe and healthy work environment without being forced to choose between a hazardous livelihood and unemployment. Enhancing inclusion and meaningful participation is another need, along with building from local knowledge and expertise. This means that policies and projects must seek to add value to existing efforts, not displacing the work of community organizations and workers. Waste management should be locally appropriate, low impact, decentralized, and climate resilient, deepening access to technology, knowledge, and skills. Addressing pollution or environmental harm with accountability requires putting measures in place to compensate for damages and prevent further harm. Binding policies must be developed to limit corporate power and prevent further crimes at the national and global levels. In this sense, respect for the proximity principle is fundamental. Waste should be managed as near as possible to its place of production, and the export of waste to other countries, something that we know as waste colonialism, must end. Applying a systemic point of view means that our solutions need to take into account interrelated crises and must meet and exceed sustainable development goals as well as climate targets. Because climate change is partially the result of systemic problems not directly related to environmental degradation, solutions cannot just focus on market policies. Taking climate action without an overall understanding of how mitigation, adaptation, and sustainable development actions interact can be counterproductive and exacerbate the root causes of climate change. In brief, climate leaders and policymakers have an opportunity to root their action in environmental justice principles with demonstrable co-benefits for livelihoods, quality of life, governance, and community health. Keeping organics out of landfills is a central component of the zero waste movement, which empowers towns, cities, and regional governments to play a leading role in countering the climate crisis. It is already yielding benefits in diverse locales worldwide and carries an array of co-benefits too, creating more and better jobs, building stronger communities, improving public health, reducing environmental pollution, fostering better governance, and addressing inequalities and societal injustices. And it is the key to achieving fast action on methane with robust public support. In closing, I'd like to invite you to join us. We know what needs to be done, and we have people who are ready to do it. It doesn't require rocket science to ensure that compostable materials aren't thrown into a landfill or a dump, and stopping food waste and rebuilding our soils are two goals that we can all share. So please join us in adopting the environmental justice principles. Let us know if you'd like to learn more. We're organizing some events that you can join us at. And thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you, Christy. You clearly outlined a lot of important points that sometimes have difficult ways to pack it into loaded 5 points for all the issues that we're dealing with. And I like one of the things that you said about having a systemic point of view. In achieving a systemic change, a big part of it is inclusivity and acknowledging local knowledge, people, and including them in the process of making change to happen. And our next panelist will bring us to have a deeper look at what does it look like in communities both on the waste and agriculture sector. And we have a set of panelists from government officials, civil society, and frontline communities. And you also will see how both are interlinked in a strong way. So to follow up Christy's presentation, I invite all the panelists to stand up and then be seated, please. And give a big hand for all the panelists. So for all panelists, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity for me and also for the audience to hear great stories from you and get inspired and get ready for actions. For our first set of panel, as I said, we have 2 panels on waste and agriculture, and we'll start with waste. We have 4 panels. We have 1 solo female from government officials here. It's Gayatri in the middle. And she's opened up this session. Gayatri is one of the youngest elected representatives in the local body of government in India. At the age of 25, she is currently a chairperson of the Health and Sanitation Wing of Trivandrum Municipal Corporation, leading about 200 officers, including health inspectors, medical doctors, veterinary surgeons, and many more. She got elected as a councillor of a ward with a population of about 10,000 in the city capital of Kerala, Trivandrum. She's engaged in promoting decentralized waste management practices among the people through various awareness campaigns, and under her leadership, through educational institutions, government offices, residential areas, and coastal regions. So Gayatri, for the first session, please share with us the story from Trivandrum, as Trivandrum is one of the endorsers of the environmental justice principle that Christy shared. What does it mean for you as government official to endorse the environmental justice principles, and what are the barriers to achieve it in the waste sector? So please, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Yobal, and hi everyone. This is my first COP and I'm a bit nervous also. I'll talk to you about my city's experience in waste management and waste reduction process. Just for your information, Trivandrum is the capital city of the state of Kerala, which is down south India, and is famous for its democratic decentralized governance. And being the capital city, there's a lot of floating population that is around 200,000 per day, and the total population of the city is close to 1 million according to the 2011 census, and obviously it would have increased by now. Now you can imagine the amount of waste that is being produced per day in the city. It is 423 tons per day, and according to the speciality or the uniqueness of Indian diet, we have 72% of the total waste being organic, and that comes to around 305 tons per day of waste, organic waste. Now, how to manage this was a very serious question. We had a centralized waste management plant in Trivandrum in 2011 until then, but then due to some local protests and we had to close it down. And that is when we decided to move on to decentralized waste management practices. And India is a country where a centralized waste management practice is encouraged, and we are the only state that has declared a decentralized waste management system. Now, we have door-to-door collection of inorganics and source-level management of organic waste. This door-to-door collection of waste is done by a group of a force called Harita Karma Sena, which means the Green Action Force, who take it to the material collection facilities, and from there it goes to the approved recyclers. Now, let's see how this has contributed to the EJ, Environmental Justice Principle, that my friend has already explained here. Thank you, Christy, for that. I would say the first principle, which talks about respect for planetary boundaries. We, the global south, have always had shortage of resources to satisfy the needs of this huge population. India being the second largest populated country, we had to resort to frugal lifestyle to manage these resources for our huge population. And since colonization, our concept of development, there was a misnorm on the concept of development, and it was very difficult to manage this frugal lifestyle with resources. Also, this new market economy, the new capitalist economy, has made it even worse to be very frugal on resources. So there was a need to make a difference, to make people aware that this misnorm has to end and this is not going to benefit us in the future. So we undertook a very serious mission to bring in behavioral change among the people, and with regard to the use and management of resources and waste. So the city started to adopt a standard norm, which is called Green Protocol, which ensure that the use of single-use plastics is cut down drastically, resources are not wasted, and waste generation is also reduced to maximum. The Green Protocol is a standard norm that started off in the Trivandrum city, in the capital city, and is undertaken by the whole state now. The city is also engaged in bringing back the commons, encouraging the culture of sharing and caring. Moving on to the second EJ principle, which is respect towards waste pickers and waste workers. The marginalized communities in India have always undergone so much of exploitation, so much of neglection, and that is due to negligence towards the marginalized community due to India's culture of caste and gender discrimination. Though manual scavenging is banned in the country, it still exists there, and it is mostly who bore the brunt is mostly the oppressed caste and the oppressed classes. So it was in Kerala for the first time in India that the scavenging workforce organized themselves to fight for their rights, to fight against this injustice. And in the city of Trivandrum, we have raised the status of the workers who go for door-to-door collection, as I mentioned earlier, the Harita Karma Sena. We have turned them to green technicians who can provide technical support to organic waste management, source level composting, etc. So there are around 1,300, that is 1,300 Harita Karma Sena members in the state, of which more than 950 are women. And more people are attracted towards this job due to its status and due to the earnings that they get per month. It's close to $300 per month, and considering the poverty index of India, it's pretty high. And people of the state have a high respect towards these waste pickers or waste collectors. We don't like to call them waste pickers, but green technicians. And there is a combined action for just transition of waste pickers and waste workers. And moving on to the third principle, which is enhance inclusion and build from local knowledge. Like I said earlier, Kerala is known for its participatory planning process and decentralized governance, which was a breakthrough in India. The state was highly positive volunteerism. It has, people turning up voluntarily for all services for development, which helped us achieve the socio-economic development despite of having this resource constraints. Now, Kerala also is famous for its women self-help group, which is called Kudumbashree, and it is the largest women organization or women self-help group with close to 4.5 million members. And that is women alone. And the speciality of this group is that only one member from a family is given membership. So that is 4.5 million families attached to Kudumbashree. And like I said before, the Haritha Karma Sena members are all from this self-help group. Most of them are women, and all the women are from Kudumbashree. We also have, the youth and students joining hands as Green Army to enforce or to implement Green Protocol to ensure that it is there in all the events that are conducted in the city. So these people together have wide local knowledge, which we use actually to find solutions for the development issues that we face in the city. And very important one is the fourth one, which is respond to pollution and environmental harm with accountability. Don't be surprised, but the density of population in the city of Trivandrum is 4,500 people per square kilometer. And I think that is, the city is like a big country, an individual country as such. Now, this challenge of waste management is addressed through decentralized solid waste management system. There is source level segregation of organics and inorganics. The green bins that you see on the screen, those are called kitchen bins. Which are small composting units placed in each household. So this is happening in a city where there is not even a single centralized plant or a landfill for that matter. Now there are also community level aerobic bins, the ones that you see in the pink, rose and white bars. Those are community level aerobic bins for organic composting. And we ensure stringent measures are taken against public waste dumping, not even littering, but dumping. It happens a lot in India, the dump yards. So we ensure stringent action, and also burning is a usual scenario. We also ensure that doesn't happen in public. So the enforcement team of the health inspectors who come around 200, like Yobel mentioned earlier, the health inspectors are always alert, and any act of pollution or any environmental harm is not tolerated in the city, and we ensure that. Moving on to the final principle, apply systemic perspective to find holistic solutions. It just combines all the previous things that I told you just now. The state is going to be the first in India to declare as a zero waste state by March 2024. And this is achieved through source level segregation, decentralized waste management, proper addressal of organic waste, resource recovery, innovative composting techniques, forward linkage of urban gardening, job creation and job security in waste management process, just transition, recycling, promotion of alternative products, complete support of the local self-governments, and all these have efficiently contributed to find what you call holistic solutions to the challenges we face with regard to waste management. Now, like any other place in the global south, in spite of all these, we have so many challenges to face. The international financial institutions are, pressurizing us to adopt techniques or solutions like waste to energy incineration, centralized waste plants, privatization and contractualization of waste workers, etc., which we have clearly proved that wouldn't help the people or any techniques of waste management for that matter. And the Indian government is supporting centralized waste management system, but being the only state, that is Kerala, that has declared a policy of decentralized system, there is always this conflict, there is always this clash or friction with the central government. And we feel there is no point at all in the discussions on climate change without talking about the collective action, people's participation, and inclusivity. I hope our cities work in this regard, and with respect to waste management, resource management, will have some impact, even though very small, in the serious climate action dialogues in COP28. And thank you very much for bearing with my Indian accent. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. It's very unique in the sense that what Gayatri presents show how sometimes the national level ambitions doesn't really push the action at the local and subnational level. And the stories of how people get their hands and then supported by policies, they can get things done fast for the need of the fast action for methane reduction. And on the last slide, you share the barriers, which is sometimes we talk a bit too much on it and not really focusing on the action. And now we're going to move to our next panelist, someone from the civil society who's been working a lot in India on policy advocacy, who's also struggling the same thing on advancing the environmental justice agenda. And here we have with us Mahesh Pandya, the director of Payavaran Mitra, and under his leadership, Payavaran Mitra mobilized people to participate in hundreds of environmental public hearings through sending informations, conducting meetings, and visiting project-affected villages, and also encourage people to participate in this hearing and raise their opinions and concerns. He has been actively sending written comments, objections, and suggestions to concerned authorities for any project's public hearing in Gujarat at national level, and he also do a lot of policy advocacy through writing in case of violations, including to international financing institutions, which Gayatri shared on the last slide. So Mahesh, I have two questions for you. First, as someone who does a lot of policy advocacy in the local level in Gujarat and also the national level, please tell us how does the implementation of environmental justice principles looks like? And secondly, from the civil society perspective, how can you ensure inclusivity in achieving environmental justice, particularly of the involvement of grassroots communities, waste worker, and also waste speaker? We'll have a set of question and answers at the end, so if you have questions, just write it down. We'll have time to answer and come back to you. So please, Mahesh, the time is yours.
Namaskar and good evening to all. Thank you, Abel, and I will cover your question during my presentation. And congratulations and thank you very much, Gayatri, for leading the state, country, being a good example practice in Kerala, Trivandrum. We are trying our level best in Gujarat. Because in India, the Gujarat is so-called model state. So of course, there is a lot of commitment and agreement in UN and everywhere. But how they are implementing? So our basic role is to monitor whatever the commitment or the agreement made by our state government or the Indian government is at a state level and some extent at a national level. So I am coming from the state of Gujarat and Ahmedabad city. The population is around 7.5 million, Gayatri. And so, there is a door-to-door collection rules also and Supreme Court guideline also. So in my city, the 50% door-to-door collection is there, but there is no segregation of the waste. And my city geographically is a plain terrain, plain area. But there is 5 big mountains of the waste management is there. So the students are learning in the textbook that the Ahmedabad city geographically is a plain city, plain terrain. But how this 5 mountain is there? So they are surprising and they are asking to me. When my daughter is asking to me, Papa, you are in the textbook is wrong that they are telling that it's a plain terrain and here is the 5 big mountain. So I am telling that is a heave and mountain of the waste. So that is the 172 meter high. The Pirana mountain is there of this waste. This thing is, and 1.25 metric tons of a garbage is generated in Pirana mountain. Of course, the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation is targeting that by 2030 the zero waste management and all that, and they are working on that. And that is why to reduce the mountain, they are doing the number of things. But of course, honestly speaking, and without fearing, even in Gujarat and India also I am speaking black and white. After the Supreme Court judgment and National Green Tribunal judgment, they slapped to my government and the corporation that why they are not follow the domestic waste rules. And that is why the corporation came forward after the penalty of crores of rupees in Indian currency. And now they are removing, and now the progress is good. I must have to appreciate that now progress is very good. And of course, we have to hammering a lot to control them and to follow the judgment. The corporation is prepared a roadmap for zero waste in my city. The Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation Zero Waste Policy document was to guide implementation of the policies and to sensitize the citizen and business and industries in Ahmedabad to work together toward a zero waste society. As a stakeholder, Paryavan Mitra, we are reminding these points for the policy advocacy. We are asking a number of questions about the implementation of this policy into the state level assembly and also in the board of the corporation through the corporators. We are regularly doing the media advocacy about the implementation of this policy, and that is why also we are pushing and we are encouraging and sensitizing the people that look what is happening in our roadmap. Try to involve the stakeholders in the same platform to put united voice. Because whatever the policy is there, they are framing the bureaucrats. The involvement of the stakeholders like the waste pickers and civil society are excluded. Or only those who are the spokesperson on behalf of the government, they are considering a stakeholder to prepare this kind of policy. And that is why the role of the Paryavan Mitra is carrying all together stakeholders and to make a proper kind of implementation. Visible challenges there, like at a national level, the lack of proper implementation. Like India declared that put a ban on the single-use plastic. Unfortunately, officially it is banned, but the single plastic production is there. So it is difficult to implement because who are producing the single-use plastic? The big industries people. And India is a democratic country and we are depending on the electoral democratic system. So most of the political parties are getting huge fund from the industries. And that is why the government, of course, giving an agreement to the UN and Paris Agreement and pass rules in the parliament, but implementation level is very low because unfortunately they have to support to the industries because the fund is coming from them to fight a electoral democracy election. Good practices are there but not spread in larger area like Gayatri put a very good example of the Trivandrum. But in very few towns and cities, this is a good example, but difficult to spread out across the country. And yeah, the clip is there, so I will sort it out. Okay. So the spread out is difficult, but we will try with the civil society that it should be implemented across the country. Single-use plastic waste is bigger challenge, and environmental impact, contamination of the natural resources also, because if my city is getting 1 inch of rain, but the whole city is flooded because of the plastic. Everywhere plastic jammed the pipeline and everything. So this is the biggest issue. At a local level, the mixing of the waste, no segregation at source. There is system is there, but follow-up is not there. So the government is not doing the proper advocacy and all, and not giving a separate kind of bins and all. So people are mixing the waste and giving it to them. The health risk for the informal sector workers who are mostly working without the protective equipment, and they are from the backward classes, so no one is bothered about them. They are not giving a proper equipment to them. Condition of the local communities living near the dump sites, it's an unfortunate thing, it's a violation of the human right. Those who are the poor people, they are residing nearby this dumping site. The role of waste workers, so we are also encouraging them and also putting demand on behalf of them. The Paryavan Mitra is a good students network called Green Catalyst. And through the Green Catalyst, we are trying to create a awareness among the society about the waste management and plastic waste particularly. So this is the photos, and every weekend they are going to the common places and creating awareness like that. Here one picture is like we are connecting. Here is the Gujarat Pollution Control Board, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, Chamber of Commerce, and schools have a waste management fair. So we are trying to focus waste management this thing. Also we are taking help of the Chamber of Commerce because they are an industrial group. So with the help of them we are also creating a awareness. Lifestyle for the environment, the challenges, solution and initiative. Recently we had set a good example that with my Paryavan Mitra, Gujarat Pollution Control Board, who is our implementing agency. Abel, I am following your sign. And the industries. So industries prepared a cloth bag and we distributed to the in a vegetable market so people can use it and say no to the plastic. Waste pickers policy was not there in Gujarat, but due to our intervention, they framed this policy, and fortunately I am a only expert member in the state level waste management committee, but I am in minority, so difficult to push this thing. Now the waste picker is only getting 3 rupees per kilogram of the single, so which is not enough. So again we are fighting that as per the suggestion of the Paryavan Mitra, they carried out this policy, but which is not enough. Our suggestion is, in short, create a system for the effective segregation of the solid waste at source, incentive to the citizen for doing solid waste segregation at source, involvement of all stakeholders, incentive to the waste pickers, welfare scheme and minimum support price because they are exploited a lot, include the waste management syllabus in the school as well as university level, and good practice example of alternative of plastics. We are also doing the parliamentary and media advocacy and state level assembly. This is a suggestion basically. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mahesh. I feel like your presentation captures a lot of our feelings as civil societies on how sometimes working with government and then moving actions on the ground takes a lot of work. And then one of the things that you mentioned is how to get communities involved actively and have ownership in the change that we are trying to make. And in this next panel, we'll have two people representing waste speakers group. One is Anil from Hasiludala and also Mansur from Hasiludala. Mansur doesn't speak English, so Anil will translate for him. But for now, I'll go to Anil, who is the director of Hasiludala from Mysuru, and he will talk about what's the program of Hasiludala in organizing waste speaker, what's the successes, and then after that, I'll have two questions for Mansur, so he can tell us what does it feel and like on the ground and why environmental justice is very important. So please, Anil.
Thank you very much, Jobel. So Hasrudala means a green force in Kannada language. So green force, Hasrudala, a social impact organization working for waste pickers and other informal waste workers in some selected cities of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh states. So objectives are including waste pickers into the solid waste management practices and providing them social securities are two main objectives of Hasrudala. So in Bangalore, we have provided 11,400 waste pickers have been issued identity cards from the BBMP. So more than 3,000 waste pickers have undergone various training program like DWCC training or the financial literacy training or climate change championship training. So nearly 4,000 waste pickers have got the jobs in waste management sectors. Around 65 waste pickers are managing dry waste collection centers in and around the Karnataka state. So over 3,000 waste pickers children have access to community library in the community libraries. Over 1,000 children of waste pickers have received scholarships from the government sectors. So this is about the DWCC dry waste collection center management. So we have total 198 wards in Bangalore city. So out of that 168 dry waste collection center, we have in that 59 dry waste collection centers are managed by the waste pickers. So 2.5 ton metric ton of dry waste will be collected from door to door collection throughout the city in each dry waste collection centers. Around 148 metric tons of dry waste will be collected and sent to recycling units. Next, if we talk about the organic waste management, we have a different facilities of organic waste management in Karnataka state. So like this is from one of the Mysore City Corporation plant. So here we are managing somewhere around 2.5 tons of organic waste in a windrow system composting. Then this is in one of the village, we are managing 200 kgs per day organic waste into the worm compost. This is in one of the hospital waste we collect and we are sending it to piggery. Why piggery, you can ask. See, in organic waste we are getting more food waste and the liquid content is more. So that is why we are sending this to a piggery, because this is also one of the organic waste management system. So apart from these, we do most of the training programs, IEC programs, information, education and communication program, training program to all the stakeholders, from students to college students, school students, and for the working women, everybody. So this is one pilot program. We just wanted to success this in one village, like sustainable menstrual hygiene program. So we wanted to convert this village as a zero waste Gram Panchayat village. So before that, going to the solid waste management part, we just wanted to convert this, like, stop or eliminate the single-use sanitary pads. So after that, it may be very useful for to manage this solid waste management part. So here we have distributed somewhere around 2,000 cloth pads and menstrual cups to the women. And after 3 months of complete training to them and repeated awareness, So we could able to convert 96% of the women have been converted to using the sustainable menstruation product like cloth pads and menstrual cup they are using. So that is the one achievement where we can go ahead for the next solid waste management part here. So in South Coorg in Karnataka, we have successfully able to close 2 landfill sites in association with one of the volunteering organization and the citizen. Now the waste, whatever the waste, dry waste we collect from home, that has been routed to a dry waste collection center. So now these 2 landfill sites have been closed permanently. So about the policy level, so piloted the first dry waste collection center operated and staffed by waste pickers. This model is now enshrined in the solid waste management bylaws of the city. Karnataka Directorate of Municipal Administration has issued a circular in 2022 to all municipal bodies in the state to identify and issue identity cards to all the waste pickers in the respective cities. In collaboration with sister organization in Pune and Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers Advocacy, the children of waste pickers are included to be eligible for pre-matric scholarships to the children of those engaged in occupations involving cleaning and prone to health hazards. Waste pickers are defined and included as stakeholders in the Solid Waste Management Rule 2016 as set out by the MOEF Government of India. Inclusion of waste pickers is a category in the Swachh Sarvekshan for Swachh Bharat Abhiyan 2.0. So this is about Hasudala's program, activities what we are doing in Karnataka. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anil. I really love how the different solutions that share a lot of similarities, and also the last 3 pictures on the piggery and then the vermicomposting. It's very close and related to the agroecology effort, and we'll get to there in a moment. But before that, I have 2 questions for Mansur, who is also a waste speaker. 2 questions. The first one of the key principles presented by Christy on the environmental justice principles is to respect for all waste speakers and waste workers. From your experience, please tell us how does this principle should be implemented?
ಸೊ ಫಸ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಾನು ಬಂದು ಇವತ್ತು ಈ ಸ್ಟೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಫುಲ್ಲು ನಾನು ಹಸಿರು ದಳ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಗಾಯ ಅವರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕಂತ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಜನ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸು ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಇವನು ಒಬ್ಬ ಹೆಗಲ ಮೇಲೆ ಚೀಲ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಧ್ಯೆ 5 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ 4 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ 6 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಆ ವೇಸ್ಟನ್ನು ಪಿಕಪ್ ಮಾಡೋವಾಗ ಇವನು ಒಂಥರ ಅಸಹ್ಯವಾಗಿರ್ತಾನೆ, ಕಳ್ಳ, ಇವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಮರ್ಯಾದೆ ಕೊಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಜಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಹಸಿರುದಳ NGO ಬಂದು ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಈ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರು 3 ಥರ ಸಗ್ರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ.
So Mansur would like to thank Asrudala and GAIA for this opportunity to speak here. So he is telling that earlier the waste picker has been discriminated by the residents and also for the police, because these people were going early morning 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock to pick the waste around the residential areas.
ಸೊ ಆ ಥರ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಕಸ ಬಿಸಾಕಿದಾಗ ನಾವು ಸೆಗ್ರಿಗೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ತಗೊಬಂದು ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೀವನನ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇವಾಗ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಡೋರ್ ಟು ಡೋರ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಮತ್ತು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಪಾಪ್ಲೆಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು 2 bin 1 ಬ್ಯಾಗ್, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ 2 bin ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಹಸಿರು ಒಂದು ರೆಡ್ಡು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬ್ಯಾಗು. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸಗ್ರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಜನಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಇವತ್ತು ಆ ಜನ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ತಿರುಗಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಒಣತ್ಯಾಜ್ಯ ಬಂದು ಕಂಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಥರ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ರೀಸೈಕ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು.
So earlier they were getting all the dry waste and taking it to the, selling it to the nearby scrap dealers. Now Asrudala has been provided an opportunity to manage the dry waste collection center, and these people are going across the door-to-door collection of waste and collecting all the recycled materials from the home. They have been given training to the residents in 3-way collection of waste: wet, dry and reject waste quantity. So all the segregated waste, whatever comes here, so it is very easy for them to manage in a dry waste collection center. And also now the people started giving respect to them, because these are all the workers taking all the waste from the households.
ಸೊ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ 72 ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಒಂದೊಂದೇ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿನ ಸೆಗ್ರಿಗೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ, ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಒಂದು ವಾಟರ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ 3 ಥರ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಪ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಬಾಟಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಲೇಬಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಲೇಬಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ಮಲ್ಟಿ ಲೇಯರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದು ನಾವು ರೀಸೈಕ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳು ಯಾವ ಥರ ಅಂದರೆ 3 ಥರ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ. ನೀವು ಬರೀ ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಸಪ್ರೇಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ನಾವು ಆ 3 ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿನ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ರಿ ಲೆವೆಲ್ಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೋದು.
So he is telling that again the whatever they give the waste, again we need to segregate into 72 category of waste, and that is also because of the value of the different values. So we are doing it right now in our DWCC.
ಸೊ ಯಾವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾನೂನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಫಸ್ಟು ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಸಿಕ್ತು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟು ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರು, ಇವಾಗ ಬಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಲು ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಗೆ ಅಂತ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಮನಸ್ಸಿಂದ ವಿನಂತಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಈ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲೈಮೇಟ್ ಚೇಂಜಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ.
So what he is telling, see, the government has already given an opportunity for them, whatever the dry waste, it is for the waste pickers only. Now they want to include them in more programs and bring them to the mainstream in the society.
Thank you. And just to mention that Mansoor was also there in the previous COP. So now you're in Dubai. Tell us also what does it mean to have waste speaker in attempts to reduce methane emissions? What are the opportunities? And also what are the message that you want to deliver to the delegates and also government to include waste speaker in diverting organic waste in India and globally?
ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಕ್ ವೇಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ನ ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನೀಟನ್ನು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಆಪರ್ಚುನಿಟಿ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಇಂಡಿಯಾನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂದರೆ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಸುಮಾರು ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಯಾವ ಥರ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಟೆರೆಸ್ ಗಾರ್ಡನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಯೋಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ವರ್ಮಿ ಕಂಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಚಾಲೆಂಜಿಂಗ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತು. ಇವತ್ತು ವುಮೆನ್ ಒಂದು ಲೇಡೀಸ್ ಬಂದು ವೆಹಿಕಲ್ ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡೋಗಿ ವೆಟ್ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಸೌಲಭ್ಯ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ಹಸಿರುದಳ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಬಂದು ಯಾರು ಗಮನಿಸಿ ನೋಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಊಹೆ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಏನಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋ ಕೆಲಸ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಲೆವೆಲಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಇಬ್ಬರು ಕೊಲಿಗ್ ಇವಾಗ ಒಂದು 2 ವಿಷಯ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಅದು ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೀನಿ.
So in organic waste management, inclusion of waste pickers, what Mansoor is telling, there are a lot of opportunities for waste pickers. Now in Bangalore, there is a terrace gardening, there is a organic waste composting, and what is it? Biogas plant work they can do. And also the ladies, the female is driving the vehicle of door-to-door collection, as they have so many opportunities given for the waste picker through Hasrudala, and he would like to thank Hasrudala for this kind of change.
ಸೊ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನಿದೆ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಕಸ ನಾವು 3 ಥರ ಒಂದು ಕವರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬಿಸಾಕಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಂಡರ್ ಕವರೇಜು ಡ್ರೈನೇಜ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ರೈನ್ ಬಂದು ಮಳೆ ಬಂದು ಹೊಡ್ಕೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಡ್ರೈನೇಜ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಆದಾಗ ನಾವು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮುನ್ಸಿಪಾಲ್ಟಿಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಮುನ್ಸಿಪಾಲ್ಟಿಗೆ ಫೋನ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾವು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕಟ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಅದು ಕಟ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಬೈತೀವಿ. ಅಂಥ ಬೈಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ತಪ್ಪು ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಆ ಕವರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಟ್ಟಿ ಬಿಸಾಕಿದಾಗ ಒಂದು ಡ್ರೈನೇಜ್ ಜಾಮ್ ಆದಾಗ 50 ರೂಪಾಯಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು 500 ರೂಪಾಯಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು 50,000 5 ಕೋಟಿ ಗಂಟನೂ ಖರ್ಚಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಮೆಥಡ್ನ ನಾವು ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ತರಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಅದು ಸಗ್ರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರಿಯಾದ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಗೆ ಕಂಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಕಂಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ಡ್ರೈ ವೇಸ್ಟು ಸಗ್ರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ರೀಸೈಕ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಆವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂದರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ನೀಟಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು.
So the practice is like, the people used to tie in a plastic cover and throw it away in the drainages, and it got in clog the drainages. It is a huge burden for the government. Again, they need to get in to clean this. It is a very expensive process. So that is why the citizen has to understand the source segregation of waste, and if they follow those source segregation giving the waste, we can easily manage the waste and nothing will expense more on the waste management.
ಸೊ ಎನಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಕೇಳೋದು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು, ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you, Mansoor. Honestly, I'm feeling inspired by how all of these three panels from the waste sector, from the waste speaker, government, and civil society, they're calling out for inclusivity, they're calling out for actions, and then how it links to the agroecology, where we've seen like organic waste actually can be a good sources, but then not only at the end, we need also to talk about what's happening upstream, what's happening from the agricultural sector that produce the food and then produce the food waste at the end. So we're moving on to our next panel, who will share with us how agroecology is transforming the systems towards methane reduction and climate justice. And the agri-food systems, particularly livestock and rice farming, make up a significant portion of global methane emissions. The extensive use of fossil fuel based on chemical fertilizer, pesticide, also lead to increased greenhouse gas emissions throughout their life cycles. We are going to listen from perspective from rural people's movement who are pushing for agroecology and the radical transformation of food system as a climate solutions. So for the last two panelists, we have Pavel and also Arnold, who will uncover these stories for us. So I'll go first with Pavel. Pavel is the director of Bangladesh Resource Center for Indigenous Knowledge, or BARCIK. He is also a researcher and writer on ecology and diversity who conducted pioneering large-scale ethnobotanical research in Bangladesh. Pavel protested the establishment of eco-parks and safari park at the expense of indigenous livelihood, ecological and climate justice. His significant critiques are on the control of international financial institutions, which we also heard from the waste sector, over forests, land, natural resources, seeds, and food system. His practices agroecology, locally led climate resiliency, and people's-led development action. Pavel's leaders are gathering here at COP28. They are also currently talking about food system and climate. We have several pavilions on that as well. So please share with us what agroecology is, and what is its role in methane reduction, and what is the key differences between the solutions proposed here at the COP or national government and those being proposed by small food producers, especially from the global south. So yeah, your time is yours.
Respected responsible delegates of our fragile earth, thanks to you all to coming here from the Pesticide Action Network, BARCIK and the GAIA. So we are going to share with you one of the experience of the agroecological action. This narrative made by the people, and the people, they are making these narratives. So the Bangladesh, I want to share with you, the Bangladesh is a very small country in the South Asia, but it is very diversified. We have the largest mangrove forest of the world, and also we have the more than 8,000 local rices, and we have the different cultures, 41 languages in our countries. But we are facing the climate crisis in the different parts of Bangladesh. The wetland, the coastal, the dryland, and the floodplain zone, we are suffering for the drought, and also the salinity, and also the cyclones, and the different kind of climate calamities. This year, we face the 4 times of cyclones, and also the one cyclone is coming. But how the people survive with these calamities, with this crisis? So it is the story to the climate solution, the agroecology. Basically, we are working towards the agroecology, food sovereignty, and also the climate justice. The community, they are conserving more than the 600 rices, and also they have knowledge to crossbreeds, and they develop more than 80 cross line, and also they conserve the beans, different kinds of vegetables, uncultivated plants, pulses, and other things. And the community, they conserve the genetic diversity, the natural resources through their indigenous knowledge. So women are the core center of this journey. And the agroecological practices, it's basically define the indigenous knowledge, and also it looks the local rices and the genetic resources to the climate adaptation. Community, they ranked the different kinds of hazards, and also they have the local knowledge. So you can see here the calendar, this is the risk calendar by the community, and community ranked by different kinds of hazards. The cyclone, the flood, the thunderbolt, the other things. But it is proving that the local rice and also the local genetic resources and the local knowledge through the agroecological practices can be the solution of the climate crisis. You can see here that one rices from the coastal area is named the Nona Kochi. It means saline tolerant. Nona means salt. So you cannot see any kind of seeds of the multinationals, they have names. They are only the numbers, like they locked in the jail. But every local varieties, species have the name. So agroecology respect the ethnotaxonomy of the community. And also the community, they are doing the participatory varietal selection, seed multiplication, participatory plant breeding, and also the women, they exchange their seeds. Can you remember in 2020, in the lockdown, in the pandemic, all shops are closed, but how the community can survive themselves? Because the women in the rural areas, they have their own seeds in their own hand. They exchange their seeds to their neighbors, so they survive. So it is the real story of the survival of the community. And also the community, they have their own seed banks, and seed are out of the corporate control. And also they are also organizing different kinds of the seed storages and systems in their areas, and also they have the large scale of the community seed bank. Due to the disaster, when the community lost their seeds, so the seed bank, they can share the seeds from the seeds bank. And also the agroecology practices promote the crop diversification, stop the monopolization of crops, and also the mixed cropping, and also to respect the rotation of crops, like the rice after jute, and then vegetables, and then pulses, kind of this, because it means that it is respect the soil agroecological systems, because soil wants to meet not only with the roots of rice, also mix the different kinds of plant friends. And also the conservation of the local livestock, and also the poultry breeds, and promoting the family farming. Because of the so-called Green Revolution, we lost this tradition of the family farming. Youths are not now interested to involve in agriculture. But this process is promoting the family farming and involve the new generation. And also organize the agrobiodiversity fair, and also the natural resource management advocacy. And also the promoting the locally led innovation. And you can see here the different kinds of the locally led innovation, the floating gardens, the hanging gardens, rice bed, and also the different kind of the biological control. And also linking the local market and strengthen the local market, the farmers' market, and facilitating the value chain. And this process, reducing the hazardous chemicals we bound to use in the name of the Green Revolution, and also this process also help us to reduce the plastics in the food systems. So be aware about this. We are living in this time with the plastics. Plastics in not only in our food systems, in our blood also. So we think about what kind of food system we are strengthening. But the people, they are proving that we not need to plastic-based food system, not need to increase the hazardous chemicals like this. And also, it helps the people to phase out the fossil fuel in food system and promote the renewable energy. Because the community people, the women, they have the knowledge, they develop different kind of the clay ovens. You can see here, the different kinds of clay oven. Also, they reduce the threats of the fuel crisis, and also it helps the community, especially the women who are involved to cooking, so help them, and also it's reduce their health risks also. And also the youth are involved in the farming and also the social change through the agroecological action. And also the ecological education for children and also students, because children, they are not involved in the agroecological, the whole practices. But there are also another story, not happening in the rural areas. Lots of people, due to the salinity, due to the cyclones, due to the drought, due to the extreme water crisis, they are not able to live in their villages. They are bound to migrate. So climate migrant people, they live in the cities, and we call them the quote unquote the urban poor. But they are not poor before. Due to the climate crisis, now most of the people, they are now changed to be a climate migrant. More than 6 million the climate migrants in Bangladesh. And daily the 1,000 to 2,000 people, they migrate from the village to the urban areas. And also they are living with the garbage. So urban gardening is one of the key to the solution of their crisis. And it's also helped the urban transformation and also strengthen the livable cities goal. And agroecological works is recognized by the government of the Bangladesh and also by the community and also by the media. And also we need to strengthen the agroecological movements towards the climate justice. It is proving that we organize the 16 days of global action to promote the agroecological action. And it is proved that agroecology is nature-based, is interconnected, and also the interdependence. Its interdependence means honeybee depend on soil, honeybee depend on flower, flower depend on soil, soil depend on water, people depend on honey, depend on food. So we are interconnected. We are living in this Mother Earth. In the name of the so-called food system, why we killing the other living things except the human being? Only for the food production of human being, we are killing the lots of animals and plants in the minutes and the daily life cycle. So agroecology is to promote the diversity, not only the natural diversity, also to respect the cultural diversity. And also it is locally led. And it's led by the community, led by the people. And also it is to promote the responsibility of the community on soil, on our Mother Earth. And it is cultural sensitive. It's the family farming. It's the ownership of the community. And it creates the happy and the healthier life of us. And women are the key here, and is connected with the youth and the students, the local governments, and the other academic institution. And also it helped the zero waste and Of course, the methane emission, because it's not use the synthetic fertilizers and also the hazardous chemicals. And it is also the promote the intergenerational spiral learning process. And based on the local knowledge, the lasting agroecological process basically say us, it is we, not I. The other agriculture, the food system, basically promote the I. But it is the narratives of us, for our earth, for our planets. So thanks to all to listening us, the agroecological actions basically done and doing by the community and people, and they are also the connected, also the connecting with all of us, because our earth is fragile. We need to not save, also serve to this earth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pavel. I think you beautifully connect the dots. I take notes a lot of things here, and I cannot continue smiling on how the movements are interconnected, are one. And I want to highlight that you mentioned that our current situation is the climate crisis and we have climate migrants. And that's why we are here to really bring movement and then get people into actions. And I also want to highlight that you put the points on big corporation monopolizing the agroecology systems. And then that's also the same thing that we've spotted in the waste sector, where things are getting centralized, getting by machines to burn stuff. So we are fighting towards this system shift. And you also mentioned on the plastic and pesticides, which is closely related with the zero waste work, and how pesticides and fossil fuel are really polluting the soils and getting to the food that we eat and get to the compost, and like it's going back into the cycle. So our last panelist is Arnold, the coordinator of Food Sovereignty Program for Pesticide Action Network Asia Pacific. PAN-AP launched a campaign called the Global People's Caravan for Food, Land, and Climate Justice last March. It's a global South-led campaign of rural people to mobilize on interrelated issues of food, land, and climate justice toward radical food systems transformation. So Arnold, please share with us about the Global People Caravan and how it will shape the climate agenda through genuine participation in local, national, and international decision-making processes. Thank you. The time is yours.
Thank you, Yobel. Happy to be here. Actually not just PAN-AP, the People's Caravan is represented here in Dubai by rural people's movements in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, of course, supporters from the Philippines, no? And we have many other members of the campaign, no, that obviously it's very restrictive to go here. Of course, from Indonesia, no? Our kawan-kawan, part of our caravan. So the caravan, among others, we call for transforming agri-food systems to address the climate crisis. And when we talk about food systems transformation, we're talking about agroecology, of course, as described, no, beautifully by Pavel based on their experience, and food sovereignty. And these two, we think, food sovereignty and agroecology, are indispensable components, no, when you talk about food systems transformation. And they require the dismantling of corporate monopoly control over agri-food systems. I mean, if we want to talk about reducing methane, reducing greenhouse gases, it is necessary that we challenge the existing economic development model that we have, because obviously it is not working. And this point is important because big corporations, they use the climate warming impacts of current agri-food systems for their self-serving agenda. They use the climate crisis to sell technologies that claim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, including methane, but are merely a cover to promote their hazardous commodities. For instance, let me illustrate. Rice is very notorious for methane emissions. According to studies, rice cultivation accounts for 12% of methane emissions. And taking advantage of this, Bayer, the agrochemical giant, introduced its patented rice hybrid that claimed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 45%. But here's the catch. For that system to work, the system of Bayer, for these climate-resilient seeds to work, it will require rice farmers to buy a new rice herbicide from Bayer to ensure success. So it's like a trap. The farmers, the planet, we're all trapped in this self-serving agenda of the big corporations. But when you actually look at science, according to research, the application of herbicides, like what Bayer is promoting, can alter the microbial composition in the soil, which affects the balance of microorganisms responsible for methane production and consumption. Now, agrochemicals generally, they have adverse effects on the beneficial bacteria and fungi in the soil that regulate carbon and nitrogen cycles responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. Actually, the microbial activity in the soil, they act as natural carbon sequestration. But when you alter that through the introduction of harmful chemicals, then you take away the natural capacity of the soil, of the planet, to regulate global warming. So that is why we are very strong in our advocacy for agroecology as an indispensable component of food systems transformation to address the crisis, the climate crisis. People's agroecology, not corporate control and technology, is vital to sustainable reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, including methane. And rural communities already have various agroecological practices that demonstrate this. Pavel just talked about their experience in Bangladesh. In our network and coalitions in Asia, we have many communities that will tell you their successful stories in practicing agroecology. They just don't get the needed support from the policymakers because of the domination of the big corporate agenda. And science confirms this. The IPCC itself, the leading scientific body studying climate, they are saying that agroecological farming could actually cut emissions by an equivalent of as much as 10% of global energy-related emissions. So, but agroecology is not getting the support it needs. So that is one policy that we really have to push. And aside from improving soil management and enhancing the growth of beneficial microbes, agroecology reduces methane emissions by, for example, livestock is another notorious subsector in agriculture for methane. But through agroecology, livestock and farming can actually be integrated, that will allow for better nutrient cycling and reduce reliance on intensive corporate livestock farming. When you talk about livestock and methane, we're not talking about the small-scale animal farmers. The live animal farming responsible is the intensive industrial animal farming. No? And so, in other words, agroecology offers us options. In the case of livestock, for example, we do not need genetic manipulation to create meat in laboratories to address methane emission, like what many investors are now pursuing. We therefore call on policymakers to support agroecology if countries were to meet their commitments under the Global Methane Pledge. We call on them to seriously rethink the predominant corporate model of agri-food systems that have proven anti-sustainable development, anti-farmer, anti-people, anti-planet. And as part of the Pesticide Action Network International, we reiterate our demand that governments include concrete plans to promote agroecological farming practices in their NDCs, in their national adaptation plans. We call on countries that are parties to the UNFCCC and parties to the Global Methane Pledge and are also signatories to other important international agreements like the Convention on Biological Diversity and the International Conference on Chemicals Management to implement their commitments to reduce pesticide and fertilizer use and pollution and phase out highly hazardous pesticides in agriculture as they pledge under these international agreements. Supporting agroecology and transforming our agri-food systems are urgent climate solutions. And such urgency takes on another level as the global stocktake, the GST on the Paris Agreement, culminates in this COP with very alarming conclusions. There's no room for complacency, no room for delays in delivering commitments, as much as there is no room for false climate solutions that put all of humanity and the entire planet at risk in the name of corporate profits. And lastly, let me emphasize that agroecology will not thrive without asserting food sovereignty. And I will close on this point. Food sovereignty refers to the right of peoples, communities, and countries to determine their own production systems, which are ecologically, socially, economically, and culturally appropriate to their unique circumstances. Food sovereignty is the power of the people and their communities and countries to assert and realize the right to food, to produce food, and fight the power of corporations and other forces that destroy the people's food production systems and deny them food and life. Thus, the Global People's Caravan, we're here in Dubai, demanding from policymakers and negotiators that rural peoples must be allowed to shape the climate agenda. For the longest time, we've been ignored. We can no longer afford that. We are part of the solution, and we offer a lot. So, to make this possible, there must be genuine participation in local, national, and international decision-making. If the Global Methane Pledge were to succeed, and other commitments and other agreements were to succeed in the face of this worsening crisis, we cannot afford to not give space for our rural peoples as we determine the future of our planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Give a big applause to all our panelists. And thank you for everyone who is joining this. Unfortunately, we don't have time for questions. So if you are interested in Global People's Caravan, the Zero Waste work, please approach our panelists and speakers outside. We will gladly meet you and then talk with you. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay. Picture.
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 No, here.